John Hawthorne, co-founder, CEO, MassChallenge. Welcome to Juicing with Gary.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. We're real excited to learn about you, your colleagues, the great work that you're doing. So before we do that, we're going to do something a little different. Do you like juice?
I do indeed. We juice every weekend.
Oh, come on.
No.
So you're like, well, maybe you should lead the whole process.
I'm a regular, yeah.
So with that said, I'm going to ask you obviously to prepare some of these fruits and vegetables.
All
So let's start with the apples. Let's just cut them right down in half.
All right.
And watch your fingers sharp, but look at there, boy, you know what you're doing. Leave the seeds, leave everything. Let's just cut a few up. Let's
right.
get that beautiful red apple. And we're probably gonna need at least 4 apples, I think, based on this size.
All right.
All right, with that said, let's juice.
Let's do it.
All right, and maybe others will get to have a sample this as well. So, all right, let's just start to feed
It's
it.
gonna be a little bit too big.
That's all right, just watch your fingers. Oh, beautiful. It's amazing how strong these juice machines are. Keep going. Matter of fact, grab that big cucumber down front. Just stick it in. Let's see what it does. Oh, that's heavy duty, huh?
Yeah, that's a good juicer. Start sliding down right away, even without the pressure.
Oh yeah, it can really get slammed. All right, a few more apples. But just look at that. Can you smell it? You smell the ginger?
Wonderful.
It just
Yeah,
comes
the ginger
in,
is
right?
great.
It's like we're having sushi with our, with
Yeah,
our
it is.
juicers,
You're right, yeah.
right? That's really beautiful. Beautiful. And there we have it. It looks like an orange Julius or something.
Yeah.
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
All right,
Thanks.
let's taste the juice.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, that is good.
It's really good.
Yeah, that is good. Well, John, again, welcome to Juicing with Gary, and thank you for making the time to be here today.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you for having me.
But I want to get to know you a little bit. So, where are you from? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in the Boston area, went to college up in Maine. I've had kind of like throughout my 20s kind of a wayward path. Didn't have a very specific career-oriented kind of approach. I was a German literature major with a chemistry minor. Then I lived in Europe for a couple of years and did a master's degree in European political culture. Then I moved back to New York. I kind of thought I'd be a diplomat. Worked at the UN for a little bit, did some odd jobs in New York, and then felt like it wasn't the right path for me. Came back up to Boston, was translating German automobile repair manuals into English. And then I decided, look, I got to reset. I got to go to business school and reset my career. So applied to business schools. Moved to Russia for a year with my wife, who's Russian. Applied to business schools from there. Got into MIT, which was my top choice program, and went to school there. And that's where I really, really fell in love with startups, and that really reset my path. So that was the most important kind of event of my youth.
Well, wait a second. We got to take that and unpack that a little bit. I mean, there's a lot in that. So you had to have a lot of courage and a lot of insight to be able to go to Russia, to go to other places. So what made you just not sure what you wanted to do or be, or did you just want to start?
It was both. I would say, you live life forward, you understand it backwards. So I didn't understand it at the time, but then applying to business school actually helped me to crystallize my understanding of what I was doing. Because it's really hard to make sense out of that path. German literature major, minor in chemistry, European political culture, translation. I was also an editor, and then I worked for a car company, right? So how do you make that into a coherent story? But really what it was is that I love learning. More than anything, I love learning. And I get bored pretty quickly. So once I really understand something, I want to move on and do something new and different. And then I have to feel like I'm having an impact on people. Or else I feel unhappy and like my soul is not satisfied. And then I'm happiest when I'm empowering other people specifically. So not necessarily getting the limelight or getting big awards or things like that, but when I feel the best and I get tears in my eyes and really well up when I feel like I really helped that person or those people. And it doesn't matter if they recognize it or not. And so analyzing and looking backwards and applying to business schools, I realized all of that. And that gave me real clarity and focus when I was at business school and ultimately led to the MassChallenge story.
So before we dive into all of MassChallenge, I will ask this question about MassChallenge. Do you have a focus or an area that is interested in health and healthcare?
So MassChallenge itself is a generalist program. We'll support any startup from anywhere in the world in any industry. And overall, we typically focus on early stage startups in most of our programs, less than $500,000 of equity investment, typically in their basement, 2 or 3 people. Again, across any industry, including nonprofits or pharmaceutical companies or clean tech, anything in that area. Being based in Boston and headquartered in Boston, we have a particular excellence in the area of life sciences and healthcare, both within the startups and also within our mentor population and our sponsor and partner population. So we've always been strong in life sciences and healthcare. It's about 25% of all the startups we've ever graduated are in that space. More recently, we launched a healthcare-specific program focused on later-stage startups up to $5 million of equity investment called Health Tech, MassChallenge Health Tech. And that program is more oriented around connecting those startups very intimately with corporate partners around specific challenges. We've graduated 63 startups in the last 2 years, and they've worked on 180 specific challenges.
You have a co-founder. Can you talk a little bit about him and how you found one another? Because it takes more than one. And I think what people would be interested, at least I'm interested, is, okay, great idea, economy's tanking. I could be the change agent, but how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I had this kind of weird dream about this realization that woke me up from a dream about MassChallenge, and I was at Bain. I went into the office the next day, and my soon-to-be co-founder was sitting, we sat next to each other, and you could tell he had still been there from the night before, and you could tell that it looked like he had been crying. Like this is a tough, you're working 100-hour weeks a lot of the time, and it's a brutal environment. And so he had been there all night, working, slaving away on Excel spreadsheets and not particularly happy. I took him, and we had been kind of plotting our escape together for a long time. I took him into a conference room, I mapped it out, and I said, I think this would work, and we can bring together the whole ecosystem. The government will want it because of jobs, the corporates will want it because of growth, investors will want it because of high-quality ideas, universities will want it because it creates jobs and growth for their alumni, the media will love a positive, good story about job creation and growth, and then entrepreneurs will love it because we'll be giving them free resources and support. So I think this can work. And he sort of stared at the whiteboard, and he's like, all right, I'm in, let's do it. And he started packing his bag, and I was like, you mean like, you want to go right now? Like, don't you think we should think about it a little bit? I had a weird dream last night. Maybe we should talk to some people. So I had to talk him down off the ledge and get his laptop back out on his desk. But a couple of weeks later, we gave notice, and that was it. We talked to a bunch of people. He's an HBS grad, and I'm a Sloan guy from MIT. So we went to our respective schools, talked to people. We got positive feedback on it. People wanted to join the board. People thought it was a great idea and made other introductions for us. And we just kept marching. And since then, honestly, we've just been running as fast as we can.
So let's talk about MassChallenge, because it gets confusing at times. Like, oh, isn't that the bike ride, or isn't that all these things? But so break down what MassChallenge is.
Sure. So MassChallenge is the largest ever startup accelerator and the most startup-friendly accelerator. That's a lot. Let me unpack that. So essentially, we help startups to get launched, new people with new big ideas to launch those and connect with the resources they need to launch and succeed immediately. We use a competition model. We give away millions of dollars of cash prizes. Anybody can enter from anywhere in the world with any startup in any industry. And then we narrow it down. Our criteria is we're looking for the startups with the highest potential for significant impact on humanity. We get thousands of applications every year, and we narrow it down in Boston to the top 128 startups. They get 4 months of free office space, intensive mentorship, training, access to media resources, access to funding opportunities, and then they work very closely even with each other and with our mentors and staff to try to really convert their idea into a reality. We've done it now since 2010, so we're entering our 10th year of existence, our 9th competition year. We've graduated 1,975 startups in that time, and we've surveyed 1,620, and those 1,620 have raised $3.8 billion of outside capital, generated $2.2 billion of revenue, and created over 100,000 jobs.
Oh my Lord, and they're across the globe.
They're all around the world. A lot of them concentrated in Boston, because is where we started. It's our oldest program. But now we're in Boston, London, Switzerland, Israel, Mexico, Texas, and Rhode Island.
John, there's going to be people that are going to hear this story, which again is absolutely blowing my mind. And I mean that sincerely. I'm just excited what you're doing and proud of you in every way I can be. They're going to be in their basements or somewhere with this novel idea or concept. Fear factor comes in. You must have met so many of these people coming that way. What can you share to encourage them or to inspire them to keep going?
Yeah, it is really scary. Like if you're doing anything that matters, it's crazy, right? Like if your idea is ordinary and your mom says, yeah, that sounds great, then it's not that big. It's not big enough to matter. So it's very scary. I got that. You got to find something that you are deeply passionate about, because it's also very, very difficult. And if you don't care enough, you will give up after 6 months, because you're going to get no every meeting you have for at least 6 months. You got to care so much that you say, no, I won't take no. I'm going to come back again tomorrow until I get a yes. And you have to be super persistent. And that means you got to care, you got to be disciplined, you got to be thoughtful, and you really got to be working on something that matters. And if all of those are true, then just keep plugging away, and you'll eventually break through, and you'll start getting yeses, and then it becomes a wave of yeses thereafter.
Well, I can't wait to go home to my basement because I've had a lot of thoughts over these 60 years that I want to bring to you, so maybe I'll be in one of your challenges.
Absolutely.
It would be an honor.
All right, cheers.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.